Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech. Good to see you guys again, and I'm here beginning my triple comparison between the Mi 10 Ultra, the Mi 10 Pro, and the OnePlus 8 Pro. And this is going to be a multiple part series, and in today's video, we're going to start with the basic sections here: design, display, performance, talk about battery life, and guys, I have run another charging test here on the Mi 10 Ultra, so I will share that as well. Now, in terms of pricing, we know the Mi 10 Ultra just came out at a price of 5,300 RMB for the base model. That's going to be $767 US, so a pretty pricey phone here, but not as pricey as what these other phones are costing in the global market. So we know the Mi 10 Pro is costing 999 euros globally. Here in Hong Kong, it costs closer to what the Mi 10 Ultra is costing in China. And meanwhile, the OnePlus 8 Pro is costing $899 in the US, but in other markets like here in Hong Kong, it is very expensive, coming upwards of 960, almost $1,000 for this phone. But let's not waste any time and let's get into this comparison. Let's have a look. Design: 221 grams, 208 grams, and 199 grams. So if you were wondering which is the heftiest of the bunch, it is this Mi 10 Ultra. And I do think this gorgeous ceramic back has a lot to do with it. But now talking about the thicknesses, 9.5 millimeters versus 9 millimeters versus 8.5 millimeters. So 0.5 millimeter difference between all these phones, and you can clearly tell the Mi 10 Ultra is the chunkiest of these phones. But look at these incredible devices, all of this cold aluminum. These are all premium flagship phones, and you can just tell they are extremely well built. I may give the edge here to the Mi 10 Ultra just because of this ceramic back. I know it's glossy, but it is absolutely stunning, and there's something about ceramic that feels just so much more premium. It is heavy though, so you'll need to keep that in mind. But in terms of colors, there's still no beating this gorgeous green here on the OnePlus 8 Pro, and that matte back feeling is still as good as from the day I got it. And looking at the sides, here we see power buttons in a similar spot, but volume rocker on the other side for the OnePlus 8 Pro, the alert slider on this side, and a bunch of antenna bands, guys. That's how we know they are aluminum. But one thing I've noticed between the Ultra and the Mi 10 Pro, we don't have the similar speaker cutout for this phone, and that may reduce speaker quality. We're gonna have to wait for the audio speaker test to really compare these two. And on this side, once again, volume rocker on the OnePlus 8 Pro, USB-C, bottom firing speakers, and SIM trays on these phones. And here you see, looking at the fronts of these devices, and both the Mi 10 Ultra and the Mi 10 Pro have very similar looking displays. The Mi 10 Ultra is a bit brighter, and obviously that 120 Hz refresh rate is the big difference. But we also have another 120 Hz display right here in the OnePlus 8 Pro. And these two may represent the best two displays I've seen on any phone. And the punch holes are of an equal size with tiny bezels top and bottom. And all of these phones have Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and back. All in all, guys, I still think the OnePlus 8 Pro is probably the most gorgeous still in terms of design, but that's a lot because of this color. When you're talking about just build quality and the most premium of all these phones, I think the Mi 10 Ultra has it beat because this ceramic back is just so incredible. This feels like a more expensive device overall, and Xiaomi has created an absolute gem of a phone here in this Mi 10 Ultra. I'm gonna give the edge here to the Mi 10 Ultra. It is just the more premium and exquisitely designed piece of technology. Display: 6.67 inch, 6.67 inch, and 6.78. All AMOLED, but the OnePlus 8 Pro is a Quad HD display versus 1080p on the Mi 10 Ultra and the Mi 10 Pro. All phones capable of HDR10+, and obviously the big difference here is in refresh rates. The Mi 10 Pro falls behind these two with a really smooth, but now I think less impactful 90 Hz refresh rate. From now on, most flagship phones will be coming with 120 Hz. They are now the gold standard in terms of refresh rate in a phone. And like I mentioned before, it is a very close race between these two phones, which display is better. I may give the edge though to the OnePlus 8 Pro for one thing, preference wise myself, and that's the size of the display. The larger a display of this type you can get, the more immersive it feels. Add to that the higher resolution Quad HD versus these other two, and I think it's hard to beat this OnePlus 8 Pro in terms of display quality. The only phone that I've seen so far that surpasses it is the Note 20 Ultra, and if it was in this comparison, it would win this display round, but because it's not, the display round goes right here to the OnePlus 8 Pro. And here's YouTube playback on the Mi 10 Ultra, the Mi 10 Pro, and the OnePlus 8 Pro. And look how incredible these devices are for displaying YouTube content. Punchy colors, you really can't go wrong with any of them. But I really love what OnePlus has done in terms of the motion graphics smoothing that you see that automatically gets started when you're watching content. It's a small thing, but it does give you this even smoother refresh rate when you're watching videos. And I think it does make a difference. Now, some people don't like this feature because it reminds them of the soap opera effect that you see on some TVs. But I think when it comes to watching content on your phone, it really does make a difference. So because of that and the larger display, I give the slight edge here to the OnePlus 8 Pro, but you really can't go wrong with any of these phones. And in DRM Info, here we see it. It's an L1 party right here on Frankie Tech. All of these flagship devices, it was expected that they would be HD Netflix out of the box, and that is the case here. And talking about performance, here we see the Antutu scores of these phones. And while I was about to say that these are all Snapdragon 865 devices, I just ran the test here, guys, for the first time on the Mi 10 Ultra, and I'm just floored. Look at this score, 644,000. So it looks like Xiaomi has done some sort of overclocking to the 865. It's performing like an 865 Plus with this type of score. It's incredible. Meanwhile, these other two phones are in a similar range here, and all of these phones are using DDR5 RAM, UFS 3.0 storage, and the Mi 10 Pro has 8 gigs of RAM, while my variant of the Mi 10 Ultra is using 12 gigs, and my OnePlus 8 Pro is also using 12 gigs, 256 gigs of storage across the board. But wow, guys, I'm actually shocked, and I expected something much closer to the range of these phones. That explains why this Mi 10 Ultra, just in use so far, has felt like the fastest phone that I've ever tested. It is so zippy and so responsive. Everything just flies in this device. And now I can see why. Xiaomi has done some major optimizations that have improved this phone's performance, and you can see it here just with the raw numbers. This is really unexpected. And in terms of software, it's Oxygen OS versus MIUI 12 on these two phones. I have the latest update here, MIUI 12.0.7 here on the Mi 10 Ultra, which finally enabled this incredible super wallpaper of Saturn. Look how amazing this is. I am loving this super wallpaper, and it really even takes a step above what we've seen on the other super wallpapers so far on the Mi 10 Pro. Add to that the 120Hz refresh rate, and MIUI 12 is performing beautifully on this phone. And I know I've said that Oxygen OS is one of the cleanest and slickest software skins, but let me tell you, now that I'm using a 120Hz MIUI 11 build, I can tell you it is now going toe-to-toe with Oxygen OS, and it is so feature rich that once you get the fluidity of this 120Hz refresh rate with MIUI 12, you may have one of the best combinations in terms of hardware and software anywhere around. And in terms of battery life, we have nearly identical capacities on these phones, 4,500 versus 4,500 versus 4,510. All these phones are easily able to last a day with heavy use and maybe up to 2 days with light use. But with the difference in terms of battery capacities being negligible, it comes down to battery charging times that really separates these phones. And we see the 30-watt warp charging on the OnePlus 8 Pro, 50-watt on the Mi 10 Pro, and the astounding 120-watt charging on this Mi 10 Ultra. And guys, I just ran a new fast charging test, and I have some good news, guys. It was better than expected. So have a look quickly here at this charging test of the Mi 10 Ultra, and let's talk about it when we get back. So there you see it, guys. We finally got to 23.5 minutes for this Mi 10 Ultra. And the major difference of this charging test from the previous one, I left the screen off with the always on display the entire time, and I think that helped make a difference. And for that alone, guys, I think this Mi 10 Ultra takes the cake. It doesn't matter if any of these phones last maybe another 30 minutes or an hour, because when you can charge your phone up in 23 minutes to 100%, it's a non-issue. And so here we go, guys, the audio speaker test, and this is a big one because we have the Mi 10 Pro, which is the top ranked phone in terms of audio on DxOMark. Dual stereo speakers on all these phones, but let's get into it. Let me bring the mic forward and let's have a listen. What can I say? We have a winner in this audio speaker test, and it is none other than the Mi 10 Pro. That's right, guys. After listening to the speaker quality of these three phones, I was actually surprised the Mi 10 Ultra, while sounding very good with a solid audio separation, actually sounded closer to what I heard on the OnePlus 8 Pro. In fact, these two phones are nearly identical in the way that they sound. But the big difference between these two phones and the Mi 10 Pro has got to be bass. The bass in Lounger here just came alive on the Mi 10 Pro, and you could just feel this bass was so much more powerful and significant than what you could hear on these two other phones. I'm not sure how much of a decision of possibly not including a full stereo speaker here on the top was for the Mi 10 Ultra, but now I'm convinced it has a different amplifier setup than the one on the Mi 10 Pro, and the one on the Mi 10 Pro is just better. So if you're still after the best sounding speakers on any phone in 2020, your answer is still the Mi 10 Pro. So that's it, guys, for part one of my in-depth comparison between the Mi 10 Ultra, the Mi 10 Pro, and the OnePlus 8 Pro. And stay tuned for the next sections where we will cover PUBG Showdown and then the full camera comparison between these phones. And so far through these rounds, guys, the Mi 10 Ultra is clearly showing its dominance, but surprising to see that the Mi 10 Pro still has the better audio setup overall of these phones. But hit me up in the comments. Which phone do you think has the edge so far? The Mi 10 Ultra, the Mi 10 Pro, or the OnePlus 8 Pro? Hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up. And if you love the content of Frankie Tech, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for future updates. And it's a good time to stop filming because I hear the drilling getting started. But that's it for this one. Stay tuned, guys, for more great content, including that full camera comparison to the K30 Ultra. I will try to get it out later on this evening. So that's it. And this is where I leave you by saying, this is Frankie Tech signing off. Have a good one.